Assalamualaikum and good day, everyone. We are going to continue our lecture or discussion on test management. We already discussed about test organization, test planning and estimation, test program monitoring and control. Now we are going to discuss about configuration management. Okay, as we know that software system contains a number of separate components. So for embedded systems, they have also the hardware components. The common off the shelf and then also the custom developed software. So these components are needed to work as a whole for the system to function as a whole. So this is the role of configuration management, where configuration management administers this component. So it is easier to keep an overview about the system. So if you see in the illustration there, there's a chaotic, no structure. Orientation is almost impossible. And so we want to have a better, well-structured and then well-organized component so that we can easily find the component, particular component that we need to get. Okay, so what is the objective of configuration management? The objective is to establish and maintain the integrity in terms of timeliness, completeness of the products, components, data, documentation. And then if for embedded system like the train system, they also have a hardware and then common off-the-shelf product of the software system or system through the product and product life cycle. I think you have already have experience on handling the configuration management during your application development course, where you use a GitHub to check out and check in the module. So that's a separate module can be checked out as the whole system. Right? So in your team, somebody may be in charge of other components, and then you're in charge of other components, and then they can be combined in the configuration management. So we can control the version, build and release in using that GitHub, for example, or SVN subversion. So there are many available configuration management tools. So that is we want to maintain the integrity, so that we can check out the right module. We have a combination of a right component for software to work. So when the software go through some changes, and then they will create another module. So different people will check in another module to the components, so we can have another version of the software. So software system consists of a number of separate components and to fit another system function as a whole. And then at each stage of the system development, every component may have a new corrected or improved version or variant. And it's changes that we have to do. And then the several developers and testers are developed in this process at the same time. So it can be difficult if we do not have the proper configuration management. For example, if your system for the configuration management, you have several modules. For example, here you have module 1. Let's say you build the inbox and then also the outbox and trash. So these are you want to build the email system. So let's say this one is somebody developed this module. Let's say Arif, this one Alifah, and so on and so forth. So when you develop one, this is a version 1 for each module. So this one is a combined maybe as a release 1 or maybe version 1. And then let's say Arif want to have a version 2 of inbox, and then it can be combined with version 1, maybe some improvement that particularly on the inbox function. So you can use the one module here, and then this one can be the release 2 or version 2. Yeah? Normally we call it as a build 1.0 and then build 2. So and then let's say Alifah continue with the version 3 of the component, the third version of the component, and then somebody else have the second version of the component combined with arith number 2. So you have another V3 build 3. Yeah? So if, for example, during testing, you have experience in the group project where you build the test plan using a build 1, and then you execute the test plan, and then you can return. Say you have 10 field test cases, and then you can return to developer. And then, for example, the inbox have a problem. Inbox has a problem 1, 2. So number 3 is actually the debug version. So for this one, you can have a combination to make it as a build 4, for example, and then send back to tester and developer. So that is actually the benefit of having this configuration management. You may have an improved version or variant. So a variant, for example, you want to sell your software to another customer that needs to customize on the outbox. So you can also have a different set of components using configuration management. Okay, so I hope that's clear about the configuration management, the role of configuration management, the objective, and then how it's worked. So the requirements on the configuration management is for version management. This one, I think it is clear that's version management, where you need to know which version of your software, and then let's say something. Let's say the version 1 is handed over to the testing team, and then you do the testing, and then for the retesting, after the development team doing the debugging, they will hand over for you another version. So we can get we can anytime extract that version from our configuration management system. Yeah? For example, if you want to go back to version 1.0, try to reproduce the error that you identify during the testing, you can do that with the configuration management. So version management is a part of configuration management. Yeah? It's a prerequisite to version management. Yeah? So configuration management has a wider scope where all files, each versions built together, make a system part. If you involve with the embedded systems, so they also have a common off-the-shelf or codes, and then also the hardware. That's a hardware version or codes version that control the hardware, the firmware. So we have to put inside the configuration management apart from the custom built software that's specified in the version management. Okay. Then following up the status of incidents and changes. Yeah? So that's why we need to manage the configuration management of we have to use systematic configuration management for software development. So recording and incident reports and change requests, possibility of to trace their implementation in the components. So if you want to trace the reports or incident reports or change, for example, you do the testing and then the test failed, you want to report that incidents. So we want to report that bugs. So we refer to certain software builds. So we refer so that the developer can check out the proper build, what we call the specific build, and then they can reproduce the error. Why we need to reproduce the error? Because developers sometimes want to see how the error is produced, so that they can guess about what is the source of error, and then they can do some debugging. Configuration audits. So in the configuration management, it is also part of requirements to do the configuration audits. So in the configuration audits, we check the master checklist, and then to make sure that everything written in the master checklist is in the folder or in the system. So the audit is checked. So this one is I also got experience of auditing this configuration with in the MRT system. So they have they store in the folder everything. So the master checklist contains the register. We call it the CI register. CI register. So this is a configuration item register. So they have a very large file like an Excel sheet, and then they have version, manufacturer, everything. Yeah? So when we do the audits, we see that's the master list, and then we ask them, can I get the, for example, version 1.0.1? If they cannot show, then there's a problem with their configuration management system. So if I want to check 1.1.2, for example, so they must be able to produce, to show the evidence that they practice a good configuration management. Why it is important? Because of traceability, because of the what we call the to reproduce the error, so for many reasons. So what is the relationship between configuration management and testing? So configuration management can ensure for testing that all elements of a testware. What is a testware? Testware including your start and driver. If you still remember, that's when we discussed about the strategy. It is a bottom up or top down testing. So there are software that is written to test the software. When some component is not ready, that we call it start and a driver. So a testware. Apart from that, maybe you have automated tools that's do some testing. Any related testware that you use. Also including the software and the tests. And then changes are traceable and can be related to each other and to the development units. So traceability. So changes, if there is a change, we have a release note for each version. So that's release note. We explain about the change. What are modules add that module. I think during our project we already discussed some about this release note. That's what we're going to write in the release note. This is about the changes in software. Traceability during test process or the product life cycle. So we can trace, let's say we do the testing, your test plan ST-01- whatever the ID that you give to your test plan. And then that test plan can trace which version of the software that you use. That's why in the test link, the project that you do, you can use that what we call the build, the field to specify the build that's used by the testing process. And then all documents and software has a specific allocation within test documentation. That means it is mentioned in the test documentation. So you need to mention in your test plan, for example. And then for your test case execution, if you still remember in TestLink, when you want to execute the test case, when you want to assign the execution, you can specify which builds are you referring to. So that is it's about the special allocation. And then configuration management helps the tester to identify, if applicable, to reproduce the test object, test document, test cases, and test framework. That means just like to repeat the setting of the original test. Just in case there's some argument, some further investigation needed. It's about the what we call the failed test cases, especially. So during test planning, the configuration management procedures and its infrastructure, for example, the tools are to be selected, described, and implemented. So procedure, how the configuration management will be done in your test plan. This one there should be a detailed test plan. So the test plan that you do didn't include this. But if you see the format from IEEE, there's a components about specifying the procedure for configuration management. And then its infrastructure, you have to specify what tools are you going to use. So actually, for the big project and large project, they have a configuration management procedures and also configuration management plan as a document that specify the details. Okay, the test release management. We know about the software release management. We have a release note for each software. If you read the software release, there will be a release note. So the release note explains about the features implemented, what is changed from the previous feature, features dropped or features added. That's the kind of information about the date. And then also in the project control, there must be somebody to sign off this document. They call it as a release manager. So a release manager or configuration management manager is the person who responsible to endorse or sign off the release notes. So in the what's test release test release also because test also have a configuration management, so we also have a test release management, not only software release management. So we have a release schedule, when, the time, updates apply, like what I said, what's changed, update, unapply, remove, what is removed, what is the change in the system, build naming. So what is using your standard procedure naming, internal code revision, interrogation process to determine revision level. So what revision is this? Synchronizing with the database and the system, roles and responsibility for each step, and so on and so forth. So we also have a test release management. Okay, that's all about the configuration management.